we'll look at a very important topic this morning that we're looking at. We're looking at some key resolutions and, of course, the outcome of COP30 in Belém in Brazil. Of course, the COP ended last month, but a lot did happen there, of course, because the COP in Belém, Brazil, this focused heavily on implementation, securing commitment for a just transition mechanism, talking about Belém Action Mechanism, BAM, for fossil fuel workers, establishing indicators for the global goal on adaptation, and, of course, forging pathway to halt deforestation and scale clean energy, all while centering human rights and empowering indigenous communities, marking a shift towards tangible action on finance, adaptation, and a fair shift from fossil fuel. Overall, the COP actually aimed to move from pledge, as it were before, to implementation, focusing on concrete tools, finance, equitable process with strong emphasis on community-led resolution, ethics, and, of course, tangible progress for a livable planet. Quite a whole lot there that were in focus at that event that happened last month in Belém in Brazil. But my guest on the show today was at that conference, and of course he actually led a protest while in Belém, far away Brazil. Let's see the video of that protest and what the demands were.
I am proud to join the rest of the world in raising our voices against climate injustice in Africa, in the global south, in Brazil, and everywhere. Today, we are telling the world that enough of the talks. It is time for real action. We don't have to wait until we get to COP 1000, COP 100 before real climate action will be taken. And for us, the people of the global south, this COP must deliver on climate adaptation. Adaptation finance. That is what we want. Adaptation is not optional. It is survival. It is reality for our people. Let us stop playing politics with the lives of millions of people in the global south. We want climate justice. Justice is all we want. Thank you.
Indeed, my guest, Dr. Michael Terungwa David, joins me right here now in the studio. He's back from COP. Good morning, Dr. David.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
That was that video there, leading a protest in faraway Belém in Brazil. Talk to us. What were the demands?
Of course, climate justice remains the demand. When you understand that your livelihood is impacted, the life of the future generation is impacted. I mean, you were just playing that video about the prices of food and chicken. Even though the people in Lagos are looking at it as being cheap, I was thinking, how many people can afford it? And that's about the food and our food security, which climate change impacts on. And so it is about our survival. It is about our lives. It is about the lives of our future generations. And that's why I had to join that protest, to raise our voices, but also to show that it is not just the people in Brazil alone. Climate change is impacting everyone across Africa and, of course, here in Nigeria. And even for the people watching me, they are already feeling the impact of climate change. So it's a global community joining our voices in unison to say that we need climate justice and climate action.
Indeed, climate justice and climate action. Let's look at some of the... You're talking about moving from pledges to implementation, which I think is the right thing to do, because given the fact that from the COP 1 up to COP 29, it has been almost pledges and pledges with no concrete implementation. What sort of implementation would you like to see as we move forward?
I think it's very important to give a quick background. This year, the UNFCCC, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, marked 31 years. And then the COP process is actually COP30 and not COP19. You introduced as COP19.
COP30, actually.
Yes, COP30.
Okay.
So it's 30 years of negotiations. 30 whole years of negotiations. And all of these have been pledges, agreements. There has been no full implementation, right? Now, if you step it forward, the key tools that are binding all the parties to the Paris Agreement together, first is the Kyoto Protocol. And the Kyoto Protocol is 20 years. It was in 2000 that it came into 2005, sorry, that it came into force. And of course, the Paris Agreement is also 10 years. All of these pledges, talks, but real action have been missing all along. And that's why we are all glad, celebrated the COP30, that, we are moving from all the pledges and all the talk to real implementation, which is what has been missing all along. So what is the kind of implementation we're looking for? The Paris Agreement set out to reduce global temperature, not exceeding 1.5. As it is, scientists will tell us that we have actually gone above 1.5 degrees. And by the end of the century, we'll be doing 2 degrees, additional to what we already have. That is already devastating the world.
That's a lot.
If you look at what is going on in Asia, in Indonesia, Vietnam, at the moment, and see the devastation. I mean, of course, we just came out of our own flooding in some parts of the country. And so sometimes we forget that we even had floods this year, and we move on. In other years, by this time, we should be looking at how the Harmattan is. There are places where it even rained, a few days ago. I mean, at this time, farmers should be harvesting, right? Grains and all. But if there is any rainfall at this time, the impact of that on grains. We are in Abuja here. We can tell how hot it has been. It was like a quick introduction of the Harmattan, and all of a sudden, everything changed. So, the implementation we're talking about, we know the problem. What is the problem? It's fossil fuels. It's number one. So if you have a problem, globally is being agreed that our problem is fossil fuels, then we should come up with a global mechanism of implementation to phase out fossil fuels, which is what was missing again at this COP. We're happy that at the COP 28 in Dubai, yes, the issues of just transition and fossil fuels came out prominently. But again,
that was like the biggest COP so far.
Yes, it was. I mean, everybody wanted to go to Dubai and all, and there was great high stakes. But of course, some of us knew that when you are holding an important conference like this in a fossil fuel dependent country, you should be wary of the outcomes. And of course, we're not surprised. If you look at the transition, the last 3 COPs have actually been in fossil fuels dependent country. Dubai
to Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan was. And you'll be surprised that Brazil is a fossil fuel dependent country. Absolutely. I mean, it's one country that will rank as number 1 when it comes to agriculture, right? But they have also shifted slowly to become a major player in the oil industry. And all of that shaped the outcome of the COP. But coming back to that re-implementation again, for us in the global south, in Africa, and the least developing countries of the world, what we need is adaptation, climate adaptation. Because our emissions are very minimal. We say it, yes, less than 4% of global emissions. So we are really not emitting anything, but we are feeling the impact. So we need to adapt. We need to build resilience. And to do that, we need resources. And every year, monies have been pledged. At the last COP in Azerbaijan, how much was pledged?
$300 billion.
$300 billion annually. So you check between that time and now, how much of it was released. And if you look at how many countries do we have in Africa, but we're also looking at the 76 developing countries of the world. It's not just in Africa. So we need to adapt. And to adapt, we need resources. And those resources must come from those who cause the problem. So it should go beyond pledges. Like every year, we will support this COP It was agreed 1.3 trillion by 2035.
All right.
So you hear it, big figures, and you celebrate, and then there's nothing in the bag.
In the bag, indeed. Well, let's look at some of the key resolutions in Brazil, and of course the outcome as well. There is what we call Belém political package. If you walk us through what that really means, actually.
So for every COP, there's always an outcome. You go back to the COP in Egypt, the Sharm el-Sheikh, we had celebrated loss and damage. Oh, you go back to COP29 in Azerbaijan, we celebrated the NCQG. Now, in this COP, it became a very big disappointment that you observed towards the end. It was very difficult to actually come up with the real outcomes for the COP. Yes, there are a few that we can celebrate, right? But the major expectation was majorly the phase out of fossil fuels. So we needed like a global mechanism to begin a phase out, just like we celebrated just transition when at COP28 in Dubai. Now, the Belém action mechanism appeared to be a bit empty, because the COP presidency, which we really hoped on, as Brazil having nearly the same conditions with other developing countries, and we're hoping that they would deliver. But they've moved this to discuss the phase out of fossil fuels outside of the COP process. So they want to begin just like the G20.
Were they trying to be politically correct in a way, or trying to whip up sentiments of some of the developed nations that you rightly mentioned?
Well, I think they're in the middle, because Brazil is in the middle. They're a member of the G20. And if you observe the time the COP was held, the G20, immediately a day after the COP, was the beginning of the G20 meeting in Johannesburg. So you see that a lot of attention was shifted to the G20. Now, there are what we call blockers at the COP, and this played out greatly this time. So you have the fossil fuels countries, especially the Arab nations, and other countries who don't want to hear the word fossil fuel phase out, which is actually what the world needs.
Absolutely.
That is the medicine to the injury we are all facing. So it is not just treating the symptoms. Yes, we need the symptoms in terms of funds for adaptation, for resilience building, and support for countries to implement their indices. But then we needed that global political statement, which is more like a political will to say it is time to phase out fossil fuels. Yes, the biggest polluter was not at the COP. That is the United States. China was at the COP, but they were smart to remain quiet. The EU was at the COP as usual and tried to fit in, to take in that leadership. Now, it's important to understand that you have over 197 countries who are parties to
the agreement.
And for anything to be done, all the parties must accept without a dissenting voice. And it's very difficult to achieve this. And that's why negotiations are not done just on country basis, but countries are grouped. So, for example, in Africa, Africa negotiates under the Africa Group of Negotiators. Even at that, we still have the group of 77 plus China, which the AGN is part of. So you also have the small island states, So you have countries like the US that negotiate alone, and then you have the United Kingdom. You also have the EU, and you have the big polluters again, like India and all. So it's a lot of diplomacy for all of these countries to come together and accept that, look, this is what we need to do. And you always have disagreements. Always. So the Arab nations, the Saudi Arabias of this world, they are a fossil fuel dependent country. They don't want you to touch that area. So in the end, all of this impacts on the outcomes of COP. Of not just this COP, but many other COP. But the question is, should we continue to discuss? This is 30 years of discussion. We know a problem. We know the cause of the problem. So why can't we take it?
Sadly, it's time for action.
Time for action. But we keep continuing the conversation and discussion year in, year out. After the COP, then we're still going to meet again in June to discuss. And now we'll be planning for COP31 in Turkey. And then the conversation continues. And that's why I asked in that video, are we going to wait until COP1000 before we take serious decisions?
Indeed. There was also a talk about the commitment to triple funding for climate adaptation by 2035, although there was no specific agreement with regards to negotiation.
Yeah, so for those of us in the global south, this is one little piece of good news we would have, because over the years, climate adaptation have been an orphan at the COP. Everyone is talking about just transition, looking about renewable energy. Now, you cannot discuss climate change without the justice component. So negotiations over the years have left out the justice component. And even now, even at this COP, that justice component is always missing from the global north countries. They're always looking at the business angle, the business opportunities of climate change, and to take advantage of it, which sometimes bring us back to neocolonialism or colonialism of the past, because they control the global economy, they have the technology and all, and we remain consumers of technology and all. So the push for carbon, yes, for reduction in carbon emission is there, right? So, but they're always going for mitigation while leaving adaptation. And like I said, for us in the global south, we need to survive. Adaptation is about survival today and not tomorrow. So it's not optional. And so we're happy that over the years, climate adaptation has been elevated, right from COP28 in Sharm el-Sheikh, slowly, and then this year, we're able to have 2 outcomes on adaptation. And the first one, apart from the finance that were promised, is the global indicators on adaptation, which I would say is good news for us. But that's not all. It throws us back into where we're coming from. Pledges without a mechanism for how the funds, who pledged what, when will it be redeemed? To who will it go? So there is no framework on all of this. So
I think that is a major missing link.
That is a major missing link. And that's why some of us are calling for a system, a very transparent system that will show. It's not enough to just push all of these funds to the Global Climate Fund or the Global Environment Facility, where a lot of countries cannot access. I mean, when we celebrated the Loss and Damage Fund, how much is in the basket of the Loss and Damage Fund? The basket is actually empty. So if you have like the kind of issue we are experiencing in Sumatra, in Indonesia, that is a clear case of loss and damage. Have you seen complete villages and towns wiped out completely? Those people need to rebuild their lives, right? So from where will the funds come?
From indeed, a lot regards to getting the right framework to so that many countries can access this funding. There was also talk about more like a roadmap to stop deforestation, which is, I think, is also very, very important. And of course, it's more like transiting away from the fossil fuel, like you rightly mentioned. What is the roadmap like?
So this, the COP process usually I would say in 2 or 3. First, you have the high level where the presidents, come together. So, and for the first time this year, I think it's because of the logistics issues at the COP at Belém as a city. The COP presidency decided to have the high level meetings 1 week before the COP. Usually it happens at the opening of the COP. And that's where we have our Nigerian, the vice president, represented President Tinubu and all the other world leaders. So the president of Brazil sold this facility, the Tropical Forests Forever facility, which is a good facility if we're implemented. Like, look, we need to save the forest. One of the solutions to climate change, to building resilience, is to ensure that we protect the forest. And I think it's the reason why the COP was taken to Belém, the Amazon. I mean,
exactly. You went there, you saw the environment.
Yes.
How was it like? There have been a lot of complaints before the COP itself.
Yeah, so in any tropical forest, it's usually very humid. I mean, I've been to a few tropical forests. Here in Nigeria, when you go to the tropical forest in Cross River State, that's where we still have some tropical forest around the national parks, and you see how hot it is. Yes, is the good ambience and all, but the humidity, makes it very difficult for people who are not used to that kind of weather. And that was what a lot of people faced in Belém. So Belém was actually very hot. I'm sure you saw the fire towards the end of the COP and all. And they were actually in the rainy season. So, but the Amazon forest, as we know, is the lungs of the earth. This is what we learned in primary school and in secondary school. So visiting this area for the first time was actually rewarding for me. Like, this is where you have forests that have never been touched since creation. Let me use that word, and then you have these indigenous people who live in these places and they survive just by the forest. Like, is kind of paradise on earth for them. They're not looking at life outside. But more importantly, the facility to ensure that forests around the world are protected. That forest is one of the nature-based solutions to dealing with climate impact. Of course, our primary school science will tell us that, we breathe out carbon dioxide and we're taking oxygen. All the trees absorb all the carbon dioxide, right? And give us the oxygen. And so we have a lot of carbon in the air. So the forests have as a sequester of carbon. So we need more trees, we need more forest. But as it is, we are destroying the tropical forest around the world because of quick development. If you go around Cross River and see the rate of deforestation, yes, there's need for timber, and all. We have a big tropical forest here in Africa that we actually don't talk about often, and it's one of the biggest in the world, and that is the Congo Basin. And of course, as it is, we usually will not talk about things like that, and we allow people. The Chinese are doing massive logging in those places and all. So we need to protect all those places and ensure that we even develop more forest. And that's why this facility was launched. But, it is not just about the forest. It's also about the people, the indigenous people who live in these areas. I mean, in Cross River...
The commitment to maintain the forest.
Yes, in Cross River State, when you go to the Boki area, where we still have some forest.
The Obudus.
I mean, there are really no forest up the Obudu bed. Of course, it's a nature conserved area.
Absolutely.
But when you get to the Boki, the Bamba side, the Afi Mountains, the Mbe Mountains, those areas, we still have a resemblance of tropical forest.
Right.
And communities that live there need to protect that forest.
Right.
And for them to protect the forest, they need to be supported. And this cut across communities all around the world, including indigenous communities in the Amazon. And that's why they came to disrupt the COP process, that they were not given the opportunity to come and voice that when they are doing the work of nature. Yeah.
Indeed, that's very detailed explanation. But let's move on to the energy transition, which is also very, very important. There was also a focus talking about tripling renewables as well, talking about doubling energy efficiency, and of course, accelerating low carbon emission. How do you think this is possible, given the fact that what you said earlier about some of the key players at COP who are still largely dependent on fossil fuel?
So, this is the solution. The problem is greenhouse gas emissions. And for us to tackle this problem, we need to reduce the amount, the quantity of greenhouse gas.
We need to have at least just transition.
And for us to do this, there should be a transition, slowly moving away from fossil fuels. And that's, for us in Africa, what are we actually moving away from when our emissions levels are very slow? So for us in Africa, it is actually not just transition. We are just starting, right? It is actually emissions to be avoided.
Okay.
So for us to avoid emissions, we need support to develop sustainably so that we don't go the way the global north did and emitted this quantum of greenhouse gas emissions that the implications are everywhere for us to see.
Absolutely.
So if we would develop that way, we would rather increase more greenhouse gases emission into the atmosphere, and the implications are obvious. So for us that are very vulnerable, very, very vulnerable to climate impact, we need just transition in quote. Good enough. Every country has the nationally determined contributions. Nigeria, just a few months ago, submitted her NDCs 3.0. And in that NDC 3.0, we pledge that we will reduce greenhouse gases by about 32% by 2035. But there's a component in that NDC that I love so much, and I'm praying we achieve it. And that is that Nigeria will attain 100% electricity, right? By 2035. That's just about 9 years.
9 years from
it's
now.
9 years from now. Can we achieve that? The answer is yes. How can we achieve that? Through renewables. Now, do we have the capacity?
I think yes.
Yes, we have the
technical
capacity.
know-how is an issue.
Yes, there are gaps, but they can be breached. And that's where I think that African countries and Nigeria need to do more. So, and here I'm talking about critical minerals. What are these critical minerals? Minerals that are used in developing those technologies that are used for just transition. So, for example,
like uranium, for example.
Let's not talk about uranium here. I mean, we don't have that capacity, to manage nuclear power in any way. So let's leave that. Let's look at lithium.
Okay.
We have lithium in abundance.
Absolutely.
Very close to Abuja here in Nasarawa State, lithium is being mined. The question is, why do we have to take raw lithium out of the country, to be used to produce batteries and send back to us to buy. This is where we need the right investment so that we would mine the resources we have, mine sustainably, because that's another conversation for another day. Because the level of artisanal mining in the country and its impact on even the forest we are trying to protect and communities is so devastating, and that's why some of us are calling for a review of the EIA Act to ensure that the environment first, even before those minerals. So it is not just lithium, it is cobalt, it's some of these other minerals. If you look at what is happening in the DRC, Africa, that also includes Nigeria, we hold about 40% reserve of the global critical minerals. So the people in the global south, that's why I'm talking about, when I talked about that they discuss this thing and negotiate without the component of justice, is the fact that they still want to go the same way of the fossil fuel, the same way of extractive. Get into communities, displace the people, mine, destroy the environment, you don't care, all you care about is the profit.
Profits, exactly.
And that is what just transition must avoid.
Must avoid, exactly. Interesting there. We are actually almost, time is almost against us, but we have a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the launch of AI tools as well for climate smart agriculture. And of course, there was a pledge of over $2.8 billion there for farmer resilience. How do you think this can be deployed?
So before we talk about how quick it can be deployed, the fact is that at this COP, the Sharm el-Sheikh work on agriculture and food system was an orphan. It was not even discussed. I participated in some of the negotiations, and they just ended, and everything has been pushed to Bonn in June. So it clearly shows you that agriculture was an orphan at this last COP. And this, again, is a dangerous signal for us in Africa. And why I say this is, yes, the technologies that we are talking about are not ours. They are not owned by us. Now, there is what I will call a plan to capture our food systems using technology. It's not like all technologies are bad. But when you make us 100% dependent on technology that we don't have, so what have you done? You have 100% made us dependent on someone else for our food security and food system. And that's a danger. That's a big danger. So using AI, using drones to farm, using all of it is good. But we need to take it slow. It must be indigenous. When we look at seeds, for example, look at our farmers. Everybody now, in the past, our mothers will harvest, they will do what we call natural seed selection, keep for next year.
Yes.
Now, slowly, we are losing that.
Absolutely.
Every year, farmers have to buy seeds. So we are now dependent on seed companies, 100% dependent on seed companies. So if by next year, you don't have seeds, what happens?
That's a big concern.
Then you will now begin to depend on imports of food as we're already doing. So that is a danger. It is not that technology for agriculture is not good, but like I said, it has to be indigenous. So let's not be quick to celebrate. We should not just be consumers of technology and everything. Like, we just sit and wait for people to develop. We have universities in the country, research institutes, and all of that. How much of our own local technology are we adopting and implementing? That is what I'm talking about.
Which is very important.
Yes.
Yes, before we go, I want you to quickly talk about the Nigerian position at the COP. I understand that we submitted the first updated nationally determined contribution, NDC 3.0. We were the first to do that in West Africa. Are we in a way establishing more like a leadership role in the sub-region with regards to climate change management?
Yes, I think we should go beyond West Africa. We need to take the the continental role. And I can say that it's actually missing. Because when you say giant of Africa, it should be giant in practice and not just in name and theory. The opportunities for climate finance, the opportunities for climate leadership, for opportunities for technology around climate change are huge and big. At the moment, countries like Kenya, countries like Egypt, countries like South Africa are taking the shine off. And there are several reasons for that. The present AGN lead that was just elected at the last COP is from Ghana. I wish it was a Nigerian. Yes, because we need to galvanize that, not just support, but bring Africa together to speak with one voice. One voice is critical, and this is what the global north enjoys: tearing Africa apart, dividing us all the time, and then they let their decisions go through. So yes, we locally, I would say, we've taken great steps. I mean, we have all the policies that you can think of. The NCCC is there. We've had too many changes, I would say, in the leadership. Within the last 3 years, we had 3 DGs. We are hoping that this one can be there a little bit longer, just to ensure that there is stability. But what I think is missing is at the subnational levels. At the subnational levels, what are state governments really doing? I mean, climate change should not just be seen as a federal government thing. I mean, if people are hungry, I mean, they are from communities, they are from states.
Absolutely.
Right? People in my community in Sekpa, in Shongo local government, should understand that climate impact is real. It is impacting their food production, their food security, their health, and they should be able to have some level of capacity to build resilience with local support. That support must not be from the federal. It should be from within. From within. It should actually be local government, but I don't want to mention local government. We know the status of local government.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. In 120 seconds now, this is in 2 minutes that we have left now. How do we, in a way, attract climate smart investments?
So, first, we need to have our policies right. But I think that at the moment we need to deal with security. Now, if we want companies to come and set up factories for the production of solar panels, for the production of batteries and all, they will not do this in Abuja City. It has to be in one community closer to the raw materials. Right.
Absolutely.
These places, how safe are they? Even for our farmers, even for our communities. So when we talk of insecurity, particularly for us in the North Central, and we cry all the time, we're not just saying it, it is real. It must be checked systematically. It is not about anything, protect the people. And when you do that, investors will have more confidence so that they are not just only coming to invest in Lagos and other places, but it extends all across the country. So we must deal with security we need it. We need it like yesterday so that we can have first local confidence to be in our own country and know that we can move around.
Talking about investors coming.
Yeah.
Indeed. Dr. Michael Terungwa David, founder, CEO of GIFSEP. GIFSEP is Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation. Most thank you for your time on Business Daily.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being a voice for climate.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All kudos to you. Thank you so much. With that, is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogu.